6 o'clock, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item will be roll call.
Brown,
Here.
Brett,
Present.
Gerke,
Here.
Meehan,
Here.
Now,
Here. Take a motion to approve the agenda. So moved. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. So everyone had a chance to look over the minutes from the previous meeting. There are no additions or corrections, they'll stand approved as presented. Is there any public comments sent in? If there was none, we'll move on to officer's report, chief report.
All right. Okay, good evening. Hopefully everybody's had a little time to look over that. Just want to point out some of the high points there. Under vehicle maintenance, 8 is out of service as of this meeting. We've been having some squeaky brake issues in the front that's being looked at currently. I did want to update the board on the air scrubbers. These are the ones that were purchased for the actual ambulances that went in the HVAC system for the ambulances. Those have been installed in 8 units. We have not put them in 2, 1, and 7. 7 for obvious reasons, and then is 8's unavailable in the shop, and then 2 and 1 we're holding out to just go ahead and install them in the future units rather than we're almost due to be shipped out anyway. So we're going to hold off on those last units until the units get here. Mileage has been updated, as you can tell. Moving on down to the administration section on the next page. I'm still waiting on estimates. The gentleman did come out and look at the north exterior wall windows. Those are the ones along in the alley, but I have not got an estimate from that, so still waiting that. Station 2 appliances, we've looked at it. I think we found finally a stove that's going to fit in there without having to do any major renovations to the cabinet space. We might have to move something a little bit, but it's not going to cause any big issues. We have not made purchase on either of those items as of yet. The computer technology systems, the Verico, Roy has been over there diligently working with the new scheduling software, and it looks really, really promising. I know he's pretty happy with it today. He showed me around a little bit right before the meeting. And it's very, very comprehensive. It'll make it a lot easier to track where people are at, where they're going, and so forth. So far, so good with that one, as well as the Target Solutions education software, really working out great. So in the, I believe it was the Saturday Democrat, we had a write-up in the health section for some of the new equipment that PCAD has purchased. If you haven't seen that, take a look at that under the Daily Democrat. It's in there with a lot of other Mothwell news and so forth, so it was a nice little article in there. We've been providing, as far as the vaccination goes, I don't know how many guys read the Nixle briefings on the task force, COVID task force, Pitts County COVID task force, but we are up to about 11% vaccinated in the county, so that's really, really good. I can't brag enough on how well all the entities are doing at getting the vaccine out there and making it a very organized and easy to understand event compared to a lot of other areas. So I'm really, really proud of Pettis County and all those people that are taking part in that. Pettis County ambulance district, we've sent a couple of our administrative staff, myself, Justin, Roy, I know I'm missing somebody right now, but several of us have went over there and kind of hung out with med bags, oxygen, medications, just in case anything happens. We're going to continue to do that throughout some of these massive vaccination events. We'll likely just be sending an ambulance over there to stand by should anything happen. There hasn't been any major problems yet, but it's always nice to have us around when there's that many people in one spot, and it's good practice for everybody. So we've been standing by at those events. There is a large one coming up next week. They're doing quite a few this week, but the second dose of the last one they did out at the fairgrounds with the National Guard, that's coming up Thursday, Friday, and Saturday next week. So that'll be going on again out there. And they're giving them several other places, Katy Trail, Bothwell, the health center, everybody's involved in this. So they're really getting out there exceptionally well. I do have some information on here for consideration of the board. I would like some direction. Don't need it now. I don't know if it needs to be an event or something added to the agenda later, whatever. But we kind of need a decision on exactly what they want to do with the Unit 7 with the low motors. Do we want to put it on gov deals? Do we want to backlot it and strip it for parts over years? Or what do we actually physically want to do with that unit? And then, like I said, I'm not looking for a decision or anything tonight. I just want to put these out there for board consideration. And then we're trying to clean up the East Bay and just kind of do some pre-spring cleaning. There is an old camper shell out there. Very, very good condition. It was on the command vehicle on the pickup over there on the Dodge Ram. So I'd say it's about 7 years old, but it's hardly used. It was taken off and a tonneau cover put on. I'm not a fan of camper shells. I can't haul around rock salt and things like that with camper shell on it. Never used it. It's just taking up space up there. So I don't know if that's something the board would be agreeable to putting on gov deals. That'd be, I think, a great place to sell it. Or I've needed a truck box for my truck since I've got in it. So I could probably trade it in over across town if we wanted to, or I could just put it on gov deals and put that back in the cave. So basically, I'm asking board's permission to get rid of a very old camper shell that sits in East Bay and draws dust. We're not doing anything with it. Hadn't been used in at least 5 years. So, again, don't need a decision on that tonight unless you gentlemen feel like you want to make one.
If I could,
Sure.
we might want to add to that list and thought is 2 refrigerators and stove
The stuff coming out
of Station 2.
it was just be one refrigerator.
One of the
That'd be
Okay,
the
right,
industrial
okay.
refrigerator and the industrial commercial stove out there too. Yeah.
They have some value.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And there might be better avenues to sell those than gov deals. Gov deals is kind of a budget. You can get some pretty cheap deals on there, but I think offering those on a commercial restaurant site, equipment sales site might be better as far as what the money
Would you,
draw.
yeah, would you explore that for us?
I will. I'll bring that information next time.
Chief, you also might check with Sacred Heart.
Okay.
They serve lunches.
Mhm. Some of the local schools, see if they might, yeah, that
I don't know
refrigerator.
about the public schools, because they're,
Oh, okay,
they get their stuff through the district, I think.
okay,
But Sacred Heart has quite a few kids in there,
okay,
and I imagine they have a pretty good sized refrigerator.
okay. Are they the only parochial school that does lunches, or is there?
Well, I know St. Paul's, but it's not, when they're doing lunches, it's only like 50 kids
Okay,
that they serve, and doesn't require,
so they don't even need a refrigerator that big?
no, 2 chest
All right.
freezers is, and then
Okay,
and they just bought a couple new ones a couple years ago, so they're
Yeah.
fine.
all right. I'll get some prices for what they're going for, and then maybe run it by them and see if they're interested too, so, okay, all right, thank you. Lastly, but not leastly, I wanted to tell the board about a couple, well, not a couple right now. Haley Green, she started in August of 16 as an EMT. She stayed with us full-time ever since. I want to congratulate her tonight officially. The paramedic has served here honorably as an EMT. She's done a great job, and she now has the round pass. She received her Missouri paramedic license in January, and she's currently doing her orientation with our FTOs. So she also serves as our vehicle maintenance officer. So she keeps us on track as far as juggling oil changes and any maintenance needs we might have. So we keep her very busy, along with her new paramedic skills. She doesn't have much free time. So congratulations to Haley for that. And that's all I have for the board, aside from the call volume, which is just with our first call in there. As you can see, we started a new sheet. We are up about 39 calls from last year as far as total call volume. Total transports was 417 for the month. So no big surprises there, pretty average. We have been busy pretty regularly taking patients to other facilities. That's opened up quite a bit. I know I spoke to the board about a month and a half ago, and we weren't hardly doing any transfers, and very few hospitals were even accepting transfers after we got out for that pump of COVID after the holidays. I'm happy to say that's actually subsided a little bit, and things are getting back to normal as far as the volume of calls that we're doing. So, yes, sir.
And Chief, just with regard to the report, I know that Jamie's working diligently on compiling some stuff about Windsor, some data. These 9 level 0
Yes, sir.
events, is that unusual for us?
No, that's pretty average.
Is it?
A status level 0 is an event where every ambulance in the district is occupied. That's gonna happen. In other words, you want it to happen some. If it never happens, you're overstaffed. But if it happens all the time, you're understaffed. These are pretty average numbers. It's actually kind of low this month. But the status level 0 events, what those mean is if all of the Sedalia trucks go out of service, we'll float a truck up from Windsor. If both the Windsor trucks are out of service, we'll float a truck down from Sedalia. That way, a lot of times they don't even make it all the way down to the station, but that way we've got the best coverage for our district, and it shifts as demands come and go. All of those 9 and all of those 2, like I said, PCAD, I've said before, one of the things I really like about doing it that way is we haven't had to call any outside services to help us at all. We've been able to manage basically our own status level 0 events and our own mutual aid between those 2 areas. So there's more of them in Windsor almost every month because there's only two trucks in Windsor. So mathematically, it's bound to happen down there more than it happens up here. But the good news is during those events, thanks to our coverage, we haven't had to lose any calls. There's been no significant delays or anything like that. I post those primarily so you gentlemen can tell that is kind of a metric as to how well staffed we are, essentially. So, hope that answered your question.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's all I have.
If I might ask, just for my own information, how do ambulances do on snow and ice? I mean, I know they're very heavy.
Yeah,
Do
that's
they
a
slip
great
and
question.
slide around, or?
They're not great. We don't use our lights and sirens near as much during the winter time, but we do have, if you've ever heard our trucks going down the street, you'll hear chains jingling and jangling. All but one of our trucks has those. And what those chains do is they're actuated by the wheel spinning. So a barrel comes down and then it spins the chain into the front of the tire. So the tire has to be moving for the chains to engage. They're not wraparound, although we do have a set of those for one of our trucks. Those drop down chains can be used up to, I believe, about 30 miles an hour. If you get stuck in the snow, they can be used, but they're not optimal for that. But as far as the driving, the daily driving, the weight of it helps. The dual axle ones definitely help. The single ones have cut loose a lot easier, like the ones in Windsor, those trucks, 8 and 9 specifically. But the bigger trucks, they handle like refrigerators all the time. It's not great. So we take our time getting places as much as possible. But we've kept them between the yellow lines so far this year. So we'll try and keep it that way.
So our response time is down a little bit during winter time.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, the county and the city does a really good job of clearing our main snow emergency routes. And if we have to get ingress to a remote site, then a lot of times citizens themselves are our best resource. They'll come out and help us because they know they're a mile off the road and they'll meet us and help us in or whatever's needed. But primarily the city and the county do a really good job keeping the roads good enough that we can respond. We haven't had any real access issues to my knowledge.
Just curious. Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other questions for Eric? If not, we'll move on to the CFO report.
Good evening. My report starts on page 7 with the bank balances, February 4th versus January 21st. We're down a little bit because we hadn't received our sales tax revenue on the 4th. And then I also gave you the February 4th of 21 versus February 4th of 20, which is up about 613,000 year over year. Any questions on that? Page 8 is our cash reserve analysis. Again, down just a little bit, as it usually is at the beginning of the month. Any questions on that? Pages 9 through 11 are the check register. Anybody have any questions on any of those transactions? Okay. I went ahead and put EMSMC's billing report in here again for you guys, the month end summary. You can just kind of see what we went over last meeting on page 13. So our gross charge per trip is about the same, but our cash per trip has went up just a little bit versus what it was last month. And that's just a rolling amount on the 12 month, rolling 12 months. So Any questions on any of that report? All right, if you'll flip over to page 19, that starts the credit card statement. And it goes to 22. Did anybody have any questions on any of the charges? Okay, bills are on page 23. It's the summary. Details are 24 through 27. Looking through here to see if there was anything new on here. Allstate is the new supplementary benefits that we put in place. That's the only new vendor you're going to see on there. Anybody have any questions on any of that?
Yes.
I don't recall what this VAIRKKO is.
Verco. That's that new software. It's going to be our new scheduling software that Eric just talked about. So that charge there was for the setup fee in January and February. So going forward, this month, it's a little less than $800 a month. So previously we paid a year at a time for our scheduling software.
Yes.
Jamie, how much was that a year?
I have to look here. It was $4,000 last year. So this is an increase over last year.
Thank you.
You'll also see the city of Sedalia there. I'm sure you guys are aware that last month, the city had some issues with their billing on the water. So we got 2 bills for the same amount. It didn't have any usage. And then they sent another bill for each location with usage. And that was due, and it wasn't going to be auto payment. So we had to pay that. And then the Missouri Furniture, that is the couches for TT.
Are there any other questions on the CFO report? I'd take a motion to approve the outstanding bills.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Medical Director's report.
Yeah, good evening. I got my second COVID shot today, so so far so good. I not running a fever yet and don't feel too bad, so we'll see how the rest of this works out. I just wanted to comment a little bit on what Chief mentioned about Target Solutions. That is a continuing education program that a lot of different services use, and it is adaptable to various agency needs and has worked out well for other agencies, especially in the times of COVID, where we need to do a lot more online learning. So I'm not surprised that it's working out well for PCAD. In fact, I'm glad to hear that it is. They also, along the same lines of how the ambulances work in snow and ice, I just want to reiterate that we do have an inclement weather policy, so that especially for interfacility transfers, if it's just too dangerous to send an ambulance out, we will activate this policy where we wait for the roads to, get the weather to get better, and for the road crews to get the roads in better condition before we'll send our folks out on these long distance transfers, because it's just not worth it to put their lives and the lives of our patients in danger. In some of the more rural counties, it hasn't happened for several years because we haven't had that much snow, but down in the Warsaw-Lincoln district, there have been times where they've had to utilize the county road crews with a motor grader to actually plow access to some houses. And they've used four-wheel drive vehicles to get closer to the house, put the patient in the vehicle, and then drive out to the ambulance, and then complete the transfer from there. So fortunately, we haven't had to activate that much at all this year. This probably came the closest with this last bout of weather that we had, but so far so good. And we've been able to maintain our service to not only the primary transfers from the scene to the hospital, but also our interfacility transfers for these acute patients that need higher level of care. And as far as the moving of assets, moving ambulances, either to Windsor or from Windsor here for zero status, for county ambulance districts, that's a pretty common practice. And again, like in Johnson County, very, very often they have to move units around the county from the different stations to help cover other service areas within their county. And so we're pretty fortunate that our service level isn't to the point where we have to move a lot of ambulances around. But it is a very common practice, especially in county-wide ambulance districts with stations in different parts of the county. Other than that, as far as our people, we've got some new folks that are, in my communication with them on their reports, they're still learning about image trend elite and what is possible for them to do their documentation. But they're generally doing a good job and very open to my suggestions, and also I think from the battalion chiefs and from Justin on how to make their documentation more accurate and up to snuff, so that nobody's left in a lurch down the road. So unless there's any questions, that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
We'll move on to unfinished business, bay window replacement.
Nothing to report this time, Mr. Chairman.
So we'll move on to PCAD workers' compensation bid specs.
The bid specs are in your packet. They start on page 28. These are basically the same bid specs we've used previously. We just changed the dates to have this bid due at 2 p.m. February 23rd. Any questions on that?
If there are no questions, I take a motion to approve those specs.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Move on to the board vacancy posting. There's a copy of that in our packet as well. You're required, you should fill that position within 60 days, so you can move forward. If there are no questions on that, I'd take a motion to approve it so we can get it out there.
So moved.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The annual credit card limit review.
So if you will turn back to page 19. So last month we became aware of an issue of timing. So currently we have 8 credit cards. The battalion chiefs all have a card, Roy, myself, Ryan, and Eric. So 6 of those are $500 limit, 2 is $1,000 limit. So that's Eric and myself have the $1,000 limit. Everybody else is a $500 a month limit. And then we have the accounts payable card. And that card is where we have a lot of our automatic payments. And then with COVID, we've been utilizing that as much as possible. More businesses are allowing us to pay by credit card. And for the new board members, this credit card gives us a percentage back on everything we run through that. So last year we actually made $955 in rebates by running things through the credit card. Whereas when we pay bills by check or EFT, that costs us a certain amount per transaction. So our overall credit limit on this credit card, if you look at page 19, it's right there about a third of the way down in the middle. The credit limit is $30,000. But if you add up what our individual card limits is, that's only $25,000. So that $10,000 there difference is for our timing difference. So if you look at this particular statement, our available credit at the beginning of the month was $8,796.28 because our balance was $21,203.72. So all the way up until this gets paid, which it auto pays on 2/22, we only have $87.96.28 available on the account as a whole. Although our AP card has a $20,000 limit, we only have $87.96 available. So if you'll look at our AP card, a lot of those transactions are monthly. Just adding up our monthly transactions that happened prior to the 22nd are almost $10,000. So we're gonna get our card declined is what's gonna happen. So it was suggested to me by the bank that we increase our overall limit. So that's what I'm bringing to the board.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the discussion has been raising that from the overall limit from 30 to 45, which would be a $15,000 increase. And then on the AP card, moving it from 20,000 to 30,000 to give that extra buffer on that card, let the other 5,000 float. So.
Yeah, have we ever run into a case where our cards have?
Last month we ran into that problem, and that's when we learned of this issue.
Chairman, yes, sir, I understand this correctly, the individual credit limits that we have set on the individual cards that are out there, that's not changing at this point, right?
Correct.
then could we just mirror the increase on the AP card to cover that? And then that would mirror the overall credit limit increase overall?
Yes, we can.
That's not the same thing, is it?
No, we had considered just not putting the whole 15,000, expanding that card's limit by just the 10,000, and then letting the other 5,000 be an overall portion of the pool of availability. So it's,
Because we can still have that timing issue if, say, for instance, like this month, my card had 593.62 because in January we have the software we use for 1099s and 1095s, as well as the e-filing charges. So that's why my card has that higher limit, is to cover those things that we have to purchase in January. So for instance, if mine was maxed out at $1,000 at the end of January, and so was Eric's, and so was everybody else's, then nobody could use their card if we don't have a little bit of a float there.
for instance, that is right now the status of the cards is Eric here is waiting to purchase a dishwasher. They've been without a dishwasher across the street for a week and a half. I mean, yeah, it's an inconvenience, but they can wash their dishes. And we're waiting the card availability to make the purchase on the other items, the stove. So that was one of the things that it became an aggravated deal that, and we shouldn't have that problem with the cards. So, I mean, every purchase, everything is absolutely approved, just like before, so.
Are there any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the annual credit card, that the total max amount be moved from 30,000 to 45,000, and that the AP card limit be moved from 20,000 to 30,000.
Is there a second?
No, second.
Is there any discussion? Yes.
Mr. Meehan, could you say again, I'm not sure what your suggestion was. James said it would be okay.
Well, you know, it was really an overall question in that, you know, number one, just to confirm that we weren't increasing the credit limit on any particular individual card. And the answer to that was no, we're not. But the other piece of that is on the AP card, so that we can pay bills with that. That would go from the 20 to the 30. So $10,000 increase seemed like that would be adequate, and having a $5,000 more carryover or something, I guess, maybe I don't understand that piece of that, or the necessity of that. So,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go ahead and amend my motion to resolve any concern. Before I do that, my portion of the discussion is, we were using caution again of not putting the whole 15,000 available on that card, when the other cards at the time could also be impacted by the total amount. So, I mean, the total amount is, sometimes if the AP card has maxed out, let's say at that increased amount, it could, proportionally, it could put the other cards in a problem in the middle of the night if they are also close to the middle of the month or the latter part of the month. So it becomes a problem. I mean, if it resolves anybody's concerns, this was discussed with the bank, with our CFO and myself. I'll amend my motion to make the full amount of the $15,000 increase over on the AP card, and that resolves any concern. So, I withdraw my previous motion.
A second for the amended motion.
I'm kind of confused now.
Okay, well, here's what it was. Jamie had requested an increase, and so we talked about it, looked at the stuff. She spoke with the bank. We spoke in terms of moving it from 30,000 to 45,000. That's a $15,000 increase. Okay. Looking at Jamie's usage of her card, we figured that a $10,000 increase on her card would be sufficient. Okay.
Not my card, the AP card. Sorry.
AP card, the AP card that's used, right, the AP card. So, and the other 5,000 would just be there for the availability of Jamie had her card maxed out, but sometimes we do early in the year. So, we were just trying to find a way where we don't find ourselves with our cards being declined. So.
Well, it's a cushion that I think is needed, and I'll second that motion.
Is there any discussion on the new motion?
We have a motion read.
Okay.
Yes,
I'll
I'll read.
restate your.
Yes, certainly. I make a motion to increase the total amount on the credit card max from 30,000 to 45,000. And I make a motion to reflect that increase in the AP card and to increase it from 20 to 35,000.
Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Thank you, gentlemen.
COVID-19 sick leave.
Included in the packet, the resolution that was passed on May 12th regarding COVID sick leave. So currently that has ended. It ended as of 12/31 for public entities. And this original resolution, this was to cover our staff if they were subject to a quarantine or isolation order. That's on page 37 on the back, number 2, A, B, and C. Has been advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine due to concerns related to COVID-19, or they're experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 and seeking medical diagnosis from a healthcare provider. So those are the only 3 items that are COVID leave covered previously. And it is a max of 2 weeks. And for our operational staff, that could be a maximum of 144 hours because the way their shifts fall, usually it's 96 hours, but every 3rd shift, it'll be 144 hours that occur in a 2-week period.
Would this policy take effect now or the first of the year?
When we spoke to the attorney, he said you could do that retroactively. We did have a couple employees that had COVID leave at the beginning of the year. I'd have to look back. I would say probably a week each, because I think they both started at the end of the year and it rolled over. And another employee donated sick time for those employees to be able to be paid while they were off. So we would have to go back and adjust their pay though, because they were just paid at sick pay rates, where the COVID leave includes overtime and our regular sick pay does not.
And he would be reimbursed as sick leave then?
I guess that would depend on how you guys make the motion. But yes, if we adjust it for the emergency sick leave, then they would get those sick hours back.
So that would only be fair.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, Mr. Chairman, is the wise thing is retroactively go back to the first of the year and make this coverage and gesture to our employees that, that we want to cover them through the end of the year. I know last year, and Jamie, if correct me, last year, COVID expense with regard to employees was just shy of $30,000. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was about 29,000.
So, this is it's the right thing to do. Again, Chairman, you were correct.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Question and a comment. First of all, if I understand this correctly, we looked at this last year, and we are under no obligation to follow this federal law, right? I mean, that's the way this is worded, but yet we elected to go ahead and do that anyway.
Right.
So my question is this the same document that we looked at back last year when we approved?
This is exactly what you guys approved on May 12th.
Okay, so, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like to have a motion, I would so move that we adopt this, make it retroactive to January 1, 2021.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Since we have no new business, we'll move on to announcements. Are there any?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'd like to echo our administrators' congratulations to Haley Green. I know that often, we had a lot of those folks join us at meetings, but, when I get a chance to see these EMTs take the time and, to study very hard and to advance themselves for our organization, it's vital and it's important. And I want to say congratulations to Haley and all those that I've seen study and go forward from EMT and become a paramedic with our organization. I thank you all. So.
Any other announcements? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.